As Africans, we have to take an uncommon lesson from the Rwandan genocide. When the genocide happened in 1994, a lot of Africans blamed the foreign powers, especially the Western countries, for not intervening in Rwanda. We had different postulations that because Rwanda had no resources, there was no natural resources for the Western world to tap into, so they let Rwanda alone. There is this particular very uncommon ideology that we should have picked from the Rwandan genocide, due to how Rwanda came out and what Rwanda is today. Rwanda has been able to rebuild itself after the genocide of 100 days in 1994. If the foreign powers had intervened in 1994, do we really think Rwanda would be what it is today? Let us take a look at the countries that the foreign powers had intervened and continue to intervene in their crisis in Africa. When we take a look at Somalia, since 1991, Somalia has been left in limbo. Somalia has continued to dwell in one form of crisis or the other. The Western countries, especially America, has been conducting airstrikes. In fact, within days of the inauguration of Donald Trump, he conducted airstrikes in Somalia. Has that settled the case of Somalia? The answer is no. Let us go to the Congo. Since 1960, the Congo has been in crisis because there are different interests in the Congo, from Belgium to America to France to the UK, and especially because the Congo has mineral resources that are useful to the world. The Libya example is still there. Libya is occupied by militias, different militias in different territories. Of course, they came with the idea of humanitarian intervention. But today, Libya is not settled. Libya is not united after the demise of Gaddafi. The Sudan is currently in crisis. In fact, the worst humanitarian crisis in the world today is in Sudan, despite the intervention of these foreign powers. How then did Rwanda come out beautifully and has been able to build itself? That is the lesson we should take. Could it be because there is no single Western intervention in Rwanda? Hence, Rwandans have been able to come together, unite themselves, and today they have been able to build Rwanda. That is the uncommon lesson we have been unable to take when it comes to Rwanda. The Rwandan genocide was settled by Rwandans. Rwanda has been rebuilt by Rwandans. That is what Africans should take note of in the 21st century. We should not continue to call these Western powers, these foreign powers, to come and settle our differences for us. When they come here, they don't come here with the intention of making sure that we are able to build that unity back. They create factions, they support different groups, different militia groups, and that has been ongoing for centuries. Yet the Africans continue to call them for their intervention. If Gambia, when Yahya Jammeh refused to leave, if the Western countries had intervened in Gambia, Gambia wouldn't be united today. They would have created factions within Gambia. That is what they do. That is their modus operandi. That is their area of specialization. So we should take that vital lesson from Rwanda, that whenever there is any crisis in any African country, the African Union, different African countries should be able to come together. They should be able to pull resources together to rescue that country rather than accept the intervention of the foreign powers. How many times have we intervened in European wars as Africans? There is crisis between Russia and Ukraine. Where are the Africans? Has any African country been able to influence the crisis in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia? No, they won't allow any African country. But yeah, we want them to come here every single time. When we have misunderstanding with your neighbor as an African country, the next person you go to is either you go to the east or the west. You want their intervention at every point in time. When the Kosovo crisis was going on, was there any African country that influenced the outcome of the battle between Serbia and Kosovo? No, it was the same Western countries that settled their differences. Let us go to the South China Sea. The battle between China and Philippines. Is there any African hand in that struggle? No. The battle between China and Philippines remains between them. The only external power, and of course we know, will always be America. But those people in Asia, those people in Europe, they make sure that their crisis remains within them and they find solutions among themselves. But no, here in Africa, we want them to come at every single time. Rwanda has given us the shining light that whenever there is a crisis in Africa, we should always look within. We should always ensure that we galvanize and pull our resources together to settle the crisis without any foreign intervention. Foreign intervention has never helped any country in Africa. Instead, it has plunged every single African country that they've intervened into deeper and more crisis. So the lesson, that uncommon lesson from the genocide in Rwanda, is what we should take, rather than blame these foreign countries for not intervening in that genocide. If they had intervened, probably and perhaps, it is pertinent that Rwanda will not be what it is today. Rwanda also offers us a lifeline: the judicious use of resources. Paul Kagame, after his emergence as the president of Rwanda, has learned from the likes of Thomas Sankara, especially. Sankara has said everything Kagame needs to move Rwanda forward. Sankara has acted in line with what we can call development. The emergence of Kagame may have been as a result of the Rwandan genocide, while that of Sankara is through a coup d'etat. But there is correlation in their emergence. Sankara came at the time when Burkina Faso needed somebody to restructure the system, and he did that effectively. Kagame also came when Rwanda needed unity, that strong bond, that bond that will build a nation that can go into the future and stand tall. And Kagame did that. He had that opinion and he had that idea by looking at the past, looking at the likes of Lumumba, looking at the likes of Sankara. And that is what we want Africans to do. Enough of this Bretton Woods institutions policies. The African should learn to look within. We have leaders that have laid that solid path for us. We have people we can look up to. We have people we can study. We have people we can learn from. As a leader, you need to sit and study the past. Then you can be able to manage the present situation. That is exactly what Kagame is doing. Judicious use of resources for the common good. The people matter a lot. The people are the basic foundation of every developed society. Invest in the people. Do not wait for the foreigners to lay their own policies for you. Their policies can never be for the progress of your own people. It is a game. The world is a game. They want to advance their own interest, not your own interest. That is the reason why it would have been very difficult for Rwanda to progress the way it has progressed if any foreign country had intervened. If any country had intervened, Rwanda would have been divided the more. Of course, that foreign country would have told the Tutsis that, oh, you just have to be careful of the Hutus, or you just have to continue to ensure that you don't trust them, or you do everything in your power to keep the Hutus down, unlike what Kagame did by ensuring that both the Tutsis and the Hutus and other minorities in Rwanda see themselves as Rwandans first. That is the most important thing. They see themselves as Rwandans first, not as any member of any ethnic group. And that crisis of ethnic identification has continued to create the worst division in Africa. Whenever any ethnic group wants to overshadow the other ethnic group, they run to Western powers that are very close to them. And that has been happening all over Africa. But Rwanda has given us that lesson. Rwanda has taught us that for you to grow, you just have to look within. Every capability that we have, You have to bring them together for your own growth. Rwanda also learned something very important from Burkina Faso under Sankara. Sankara said that they were not averse to foreign aid, they were not against foreign aid, but the only foreign aid they needed then was the foreign aid that would make them to be industrialized, not the one that would turn them to beggars, not the one that would turn the people to rely on foreign food importation. It is the one that will build industries in Burkina Faso. That is the kind of aid and that is exactly what Kagame is doing in Rwanda. So that also is the positive aspect that we should take from what happened to Rwanda. We should not just sit back and say, oh, a genocide happened, Western powers did not intervene. The positive thing is that no Western power intervened in Rwanda. We should take that lesson and build on it. We should no longer complain. We've gone beyond enslavement to colonialism and neo-colonialism. This is the right time for us to take the appropriate lessons from every event happening to us in Africa. Enough of relying on these Western countries. We should now look within. We should have introspection on how to build our own land. Rwanda has given us that positive note. Every single African leader should look at what is happening in that country and make sure that they build their own countries to that level and that standard. They should put the people first, and that is a lesson that we have taken and we must take.